Psychology says, when a child grows up feeling unseen, unheard, or unloved, they don't just forget it as they grow older. It quietly rewires the way their mind understands the world. And if you've ever felt like you're harder on yourself than everyone else, like love feels confusing instead of natural, or like a part of you is always waiting to be rejected, there's a reason for that. And it doesn't mean you're broken. In fact, one of the biggest psychological misunderstandings is this idea that struggling with relationships or self-worth means something is wrong with you. But often, it simply means your brain learned different. Survival rules very early in life. When a child grows up without consistent emotional warmth, their mind adapts. It becomes more alert, more careful, more protective. Your brain didn't fail you. It protected you the only way it knew how. And once you understand the psychology behind this, a lot of things about yourself may suddenly make sense. The overthinking, the fear of being too much, the difficulty trusting love when it finally appears. These patterns didn't come out of nowhere. They are the echoes of early emotional experiences that shaped how your nervous system reads connection. One of the most common effects is hyper-awareness of other people's emotions. When love felt unpredictable growing up, your brain learned to scan the room constantly. You became good at reading subtle changes in tone, body language, and mood. Psychologists often describe this as a survival adaptation. Your mind was trying to predict when things might go wrong so you could protect yourself. And while this can sometimes lead to anxiety, it also means you likely developed a deep emotional intelligence. You understand people in ways many others don't. Another quiet effect is the feeling that you have to earn love. When affection wasn't freely given in childhood, the brain starts linking worth with performance. You might feel like you need to be useful, impressive, or perfect just to deserve care. Psychology calls this conditional self-worth. But the truth is, the child you once were learned this rule to survive emotionally. And even though it may feel like pressure today, it also means you likely became resilient, driven, and deeply committed to the people you care about. There's also something else that happens inside the mind of someone who didn't feel fully loved growing up. They often become extremely independent. On the surface, it may look like strength, and in many ways, it is. But underneath that independence is usually a nervous system that learned not to rely on others too much, because relying on others once felt unsafe. Psychologists see this pattern all the time. The mind builds self-sufficiency as protection. Yet the same independence that once guarded you can also become one of your greatest strengths. It often creates people who are resourceful, thoughtful, and deeply reflective. But if this story feels familiar so far, here's something important you need to hear. You are not the only one who grew up this way. Millions of people carry these same invisible emotional blueprints, and many of the traits you may have judged yourself for, the sensitivity, the caution, the deep thinking, are actually signs of a mind that adapted intelligently to a difficult emotional environment. Another lifelong effect is the way love can feel both desired and frightening at the same time. Part of you wants deep connection, but another part stays, alert, waiting for disappointment. This push and pull is something psychologists often connect to early attachment patterns. When love was inconsistent, the brain learned that closeness could also mean pain. So even when someone genuinely cares about you now, your mind may still hesitate. Not because you're incapable of love, but because your brain learned to be careful with it. And yet, here's the most powerful part of this entire story. The same people who grew up without enough love often develop the deepest capacity to give it. When you know what emotional absence feels like, you become incredibly aware of how important presence, kindness, and empathy truly are. Many of the most compassionate, emotionally wise people in the world grew up learning these lessons the hard way. Your past shaped your mind, but it didn't define your value. If anything, it built a mind that observes deeply, cares deeply and searches for meaning in ways others sometimes never do. You were never too sensitive, you were never too complicated, and you were never broken. You were simply a child whose heart learned to survive without the love it deserved. And the truth is that survival built strengths inside you that most people never even realize they have. So if parts of this video felt like someone was describing your mind perfectly, that's not an accident. Human psychology leaves patterns, and once you start seeing them, your own story begins to make more sense. And this is only the beginning of understanding how your mind actually works. If you're on a journey of self-discovery like this, consider subscribing, because the next video might reveal another piece of yourself you never realized had a reason.